guys. All right. I'm gonna message a couple of people. Very good. Hey, Nupur, Nadine. All right, let me grab the link to the meeting minutes. I think Nupur has it already. I'm gonna paste the link to the meeting minutes in the chat. And is with us. Good. All right. And hey, good. Hey, while we give people a couple of minutes to join, hey, did you pull the trigger? Are you did you make a significant career-altering move? I thought I caught a tweet somewhere where you were toying with the notion of jumping ship from one of your roles.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. Well, I could have tweeted something. I'm trying a new project. You know, I'm independent, so
Okay.
We're launching a few things, so that could be related to that. I don't remember what exactly I tweeted.
Okay. Okay, good. I thought
how conscious I was at that time.
Yeah, sure. Nice. Let me see. Let me ping a couple of folks because I know they were looking to join. So hopefully we've got. And then, Nidin, do you have access to the meeting minutes? And I don't know if you're in a place where you can talk or not. One minute. I'm sorry, I just got off a call with another community member, Alex Azunas. So Gunjan says he's joining. He's bringing Anuko. There he is. And then who else said they were joining today? Oh no, okay. Anuko, it looks like I got our wires crossed on the meeting link for this call. So
yeah, the meeting link was wrong.
Oh no. Okay. Well, shoot. Let me go. Yeah. Let me go update that. Damn it. Okay. Anuko. All right. Let me send a note in the channel. Make sure everybody's got the right. You know what? It's probably better if we all switch to the other one because to update the calendar invite, I don't know that I can update the calendar invite with this one. I don't know how this happened, but so let me
So we'll go to the link in the meeting.
yeah, if you would. We'll I'll yeah, I'll see you guys in 1 minute. Okay, thanks all. Hey guys, hey, sorry, I got our meetings crossed. So, oh jeez. Our meetings crossed. Okay, well, shoot, jeez. Hopefully Nipur is there. Nukul, Gunjan, Shubham, and Nikhil. Pavan. Okay, well, shoot. So hopefully people get the message. Don't get too frustrated. We're about 10 minutes after, so let's jump in. Let's actually we've got a couple of fresh faces on the call, so it would be nice to get introduced a little bit. So I'll start really quick and say Anukul and Nidin. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for coming. I know we just got done meeting here recently. You guys are really fresh on the project, so you're just, I assume, here mostly to absorb and get to meet some folks and see what the project's about. And so, but yeah, if you can, Anukul, do you want to just do a brief introduction?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for the warm welcome here as well as in the Slack.
Yeah.
I'm a computer science undergraduate student in India. I've also been working on an open source project and a new programming language which makes it easy to build cloud native applications. So that's how I was introduced to like projects in this landscape. And then Lee reached out and told me about Meshri and forwarded some resources that I'm going to look forward to. And then hopefully like get started by contributing to the project. So I'm just using this meeting as a beginning point to just better understand what people are into and what's going on here.
Nice. Yeah, very good. And by the way, yeah. Do you guys, Anukul, do you know? I don't think Nidin can talk at the moment. He's having some audio issues, but it bugs me to no end to mispronounce someone's name. Can you guys help me? Is it Nadine or Nidin?
Okay, Lee, I can hear you right now.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Okay. Yeah, it's Nidin.
Oh, very good. Okay. I only mispronounce it like 5 times now, so we're good. So.
Okay, man. Okay. This is first time I'm meeting you all.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on right away. If you can, maybe just say a couple of words to introduce yourself.
Yep, sure. So guys, this is first time I'm part of any of this community. Like I never worked with open source. I know it's different. I've been with people who is working on it, so I know it's something which I can make use of. I can learn a lot of stuff. So I need a lot of you to help me. And my work is basically, you know what, blockchain is right now very hot. Like, so I worked on some IoT devices which can run Hyperledger fabrics. So and I applied it in my university as a campus level test bed where we can do some transaction, and I consider the hostel buildings as peers, and basically they transfer electricity between them and for some charges. So that was the initial prototype. Now it's growing. So I've been to Lee's place once for presenting this paper.
Nice.
And right now I'm working with TIFAC or some. It's a different place, and it's based on cybersecurity. I got a project from government, not me. Department got a project from government, so I'm working with them to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh. Nitin, thanks for jumping on. Were
Thank
you?
you
I'm
very much.
sure. Yeah. Oh, so
If
actually,
it's not for Lee, I wouldn't know about this community if it's not for Lee. Thanks for inviting me.
no, I'm pumped that when you guys join, it's fantastic. I'll say this just actually in part that I don't always say it. I think most folks realize it, but we try to be social and we try to run in a similar fashion as to most other open source projects, and hopefully we run the community slightly better. We'll see. I'll let Ivano or Ant maybe do their own judgments quietly onto their. I'll let them keep their opinions to themselves. But the reason I say that is just that we end up recording our community meetings as well, our development meetings, and posting those. And so don't say anything that your mother wouldn't approve of. So just as a warning. But with that, so we have twice weekly meetings. The one on Wednesday today is we refer to it as a development call, and so it's run differently than the community call, in which we end up having some general presentations. We end up updating about activities in the ecosystem, activities specific to the projects that we're working on, and that one we kind of do on Fridays. So today is much more about chewing through specific issues that any of the community members are working on. So the link to the meeting minutes that's in the chat is where we're going to focus today. I'm going to present those, and then I'm going to hopefully shut my mouth, because I know Nupur and others have either some work to demo or some questions and challenges to work through. So there's me being quiet. Which is to say, don't be shy. Whoever would like to go first, please jump in. All right, Nupur, I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna call you out. We were just working on an issue this morning, you and I.
Hello everyone, this is Nupur.
Hey, we can hear you.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So let me go first today to discuss my issues of the week. I was working on the bug in the Meshery bash script, and let me present my screen to everybody. Yeah. So is my screen visible to everybody?
Yep, it's coming up.
Yeah, sure.
There we go.
So, as everybody, I guess everyone is okay. So there are few new members. So I believe that I should explain my issue first and then go on further. So when we start using Meshery CTL command in our machine, so like if I type the command as it is installed in my machine, so Meshery CTL. So if I type Meshery CTL start, it will hopefully open a terminal in my screen. So as the command is installed in my machine, this command will open this command. You can see the use ons which I can use with it. This command will start Meshri, stop Meshri, and do whatever available commands here. So currently, if we install Meshri CTL, we are provided with the command using curl and sudo bash. So why it is taking so much time? So this is the command we are currently using to install Meshri CTL in our machine. So if you see, by using this command, we fetch a bash script which is available at this link, and then by using sudo bash, we are trying to run the command. So I guess my internet is slow today, so it is taking a bit of time. But the current issue with the command is that in Ubuntu, the sudo message is getting lost with the script's data. So it is not letting the user to enter password. Even if I enter the password now, it's not taking. So the issue is something like that. And if I remove sudo from here, the script will go on. But when we are trying to move, so what exactly this bash script does, it downloads a zip for this version of what is the available version of Meshri CTL, and then download it and then unzip it and then move it into /usr/local/bin path. And when we try to do that, it takes root permissions in case of Ubuntu, in case of Linux specifically. And the problem we are facing is that as today I had a talk with Lee sir, and he suggested me to go for how STO and how Kubernetes and how linkered work and how they do it. So I went through it and I realized that they all are using curl with sh, and then some of them are using path, like export path of that specific, and make the file executable at that specific path only, instead of moving it to /usr/local/bin. And in case of STO, no, in case of Kubernetes, if I'm not wrong, maybe I am not sure, but in any of one cases, they're using sudo command with move. Like if we go through the bash script of Meshri, we are using move command here, which is moving Meshri CTL to /usr/local/bin. But in case of Linux, we need sudo here. But if we do so, the script is not letting us enter the password. So I realized that some of the possible solution could be that let's make it another command after running this Meshri script, as some of them are doing, other of them are just using this. So I wanted to discuss what could be the possible way to do this. Am I like,
Yeah.
whatever I was saying, was it clear to everyone, or do any of you have questions?
So it makes a ton of sense to me, and I was just providing some context in the chat. The leaving this particular permissions issue aside, in general, well, it's my opinion, and it's totally unbiased, but that in general, the installation of Meshri is kind of a breath of fresh air as compared to some other projects. Some projects I think get it right. Linkerd in general is a relevant project that we focus on, but it's also really the team, the group, and Mayank is a contributor there who's on the call now. They really get user experience right, and we've gone to painstaking lengths to make sure that the initial experience with Meshery is delightful, if we can make it that way. And so having a single command to execute to not only download Meshery CTL, spin up the Meshery containers, the Docker containers, and then bring up the user's default browser, and kind of basically one command to do the full download, install, and start running the app, I think is kind of nice. It is the case that people are going to be running Meshery in a headless fashion, and so that's a different motion. But to initially get them going, it's also the case that people will run Meshery inside of a Kubernetes cluster, and that will also be a slightly different motion. But this default one of installing Meshery locally, it's really nice when it's just like one thing to do. So Nupur, what you were just highlighting about a potential solution being to export your path to where Meshery CTL has been deposited on your file system is something that I would back away from because we want to land because that's a transient command that people execute that lasts for the lifetime of their terminal session. Most savvy Linux users can go in and update their path in their bash RC or otherwise, but that's also it's another step. It's sticky. So it's nice when they're able to run that one command. It updates the same. They just get the latest version of Meshery CTL. It updates the single location that they have it in, the user, /user/local/bin. It might make sense to your point. Then it sounded like an alternative solution that you've seen thus far. And actually what Nupur is asking for is everyone's feedback on other solutions, but sounded like the second one that you were presenting is to potentially not prompt for pseudo permissions in the middle of the script, but separately. The interesting thing is, I know all of us have installed any number of pieces of software on, Linux-based Unix-based machines, and we've all been prompted for sudo either up front or in the middle or on the end. And so certainly this is a problem that others have solved, which is why Nupur is looking around. Who's got suggestions on what to do here in terms of prompting for elevated permissions? I think the challenge is really around the file system permissions to take Meshery CTL and just move it over to that folder. So it's a non-interactive script, one that is invoked from curl that gets piped over to bash. Does anyone know if there's a way to switch modes, if there's a flag to include, maybe when that script is run? You can get, I think, more familiar with the script in the issue. Well, yeah, more familiar with the script. We should put a link to it so people can look at it. Nupur, do you have the specific line where we're invoking sudo today?
So I did not get the point of like which line are you specifically asking? Like, which is the
the line where we're moving Meshery CTL and we check for who the person is to see if
okay,
they have.
Okay, got it. I'll just put
Sure. As a matter of fact, I'll bring up since I have the luxury of
it's the line number 65.
Okay, so yeah, we're catching the issue that we might not have permission to write that file to the directory. And then when are we trying to invoke sudo, or when are we asking for the password?
So the possible issue is like, as we're using pipe symbol, so it's not letting the script being interactive in a way. It's not letting the user enter the password because pipe symbol is directly, I don't know, like that could be a possible reason that when we use pipe symbol, it just like downloads the script and no, maybe I'm sounding foolish here. So
No,
no,
no. I
no.
mean, actually, so like right here, where we're doing the like right here, if we were to say if sudo move, like we may want to invoke sudo again because yeah, if it's being ignored initially, calling it again from within the script might have a different effect. Does that make
So
sense?
I tried another way, like for Mac OS, we don't need so I tried writing if I could show you my script.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're going to say like you could check for the operating system's architecture and take a different path based on those. Yeah, or you can do what you're doing now, which is like trying to invoke the command without elevated permissions. If that fails, we're capturing that. It might be if that fails, go ahead and retry the command, but using sudo move. And then at that point, seeing if the bash becomes interactive, if the script becomes interactive.
So the problem is that even if I remove the sudo part and somehow it like works with if and else, so when we try if I rerun this command and if I see that when they're trying to replace license and readme.md and meshctl, for that as well, the script was not taking input to either replace, remove, or like to do whatever task. It's not taking input here as well.
Okay.
When I run the command for the second time, and when this command tries to replace the already existing files, it's not taking input for that as well.
Okay. Yep. And on that, so just to re-describe what Nipur is saying is that when the script runs initially, it downloads a compressed set of files, like 3 files, mesh.ctl, a license file, and another file, I forget, and a README, I think. And if it fails to move, and it'll clean those up, it uncompresses them and it'll clean them up when the script is done, unless it fails, and then it won't reach the end of the script to clean up the remaining files. So conceptually, if we fix the root cause Nipur, we would always be successfully executing and cleaning up. Alternatively, we can make sure that if we are airing out in the middle, that we're cleaning up, as we go. Or alternatively, when we unzip and invoke that command, we include a flag during that unzip, that untar, that just says force overwrite, so that there isn't a prompt to the user to ask them if these files should be overwritten. Does that make sense? Anybody have a different suggestion? As we're chewing on this one, who else has got some things to review? I do believe this is one of the more shy calls that we've had in a while.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Yeah.
So we're basically saying that running sudo is at the command line, like after the pipe to curl is wrong because we may not have the ability to input the password, right? We may need to input the password, and the script doesn't ask for that, right?
Right. Let me.
So we'll
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we'll probably need to input sudo somewhere later in the script when we need to move the files to /usr/bin, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think that'll work. I think that's about right.
So what we need to do is, first of all, check, I suppose. So we need to cancel the sudo at the command line, like after the curl, just run the script. Then inside the script, we need to check if we have sudo, and if we don't, then we need to ask the user for the password, something like that.
Yeah, totally. Nupur, I think we're in good hands. I think between of what Ant is saying, I think that A, that might work, and then B, there are a couple of other solutions within there. And just for Ant and everyone else's to reinforce kind of the understanding of the problem, I'm on Mac OS, so and it's going to behave a little differently for me than it does on Linux systems, which is what Nupur is really trying to troubleshoot. And even on Mac systems, there's a little bit of an issue to the extent that, so I'm an admin user on my Mac, which isn't necessarily the case for other Linux users, and even if it is, they still might have to sudo to get to write, to that location in the file system. So on Mac, like part of the issue of, like, if you use the command as we tell people to today off the site, it's a sudo bash, and what ends up happening, at least the experience here is, okay, great, curl invokes, it begins to download the file, it starts downloading. While it's downloading, it also begins to execute sudo bash, and so it does, and it's actually outputs the prompt for the password here mid-flight while it's still performing the download of the zip file. And then as a user, I'm sort of sitting here and I'm kind of stuck, and unless I was really kind of paying attention, I wouldn't know that I needed to type my sudo password in order to continue. If I do, it continues and it invokes and it does a thing and it pulls up Mesher and it's good. So this is certainly a solvable problem. Actually, this is actually a great opportunity for you to collaborate with Nupur. Like, I think you guys would be successful. And nice, Nupur. This is great. This is a very critical issue. People can't download and install it. It's pretty bad.
So, is there already?
Yeah, there's an issue.
Do you already have any changes to the script that you've tried, or you just started looking at the issue, and that's what the discussion is about? Well, that link is the pull request?
Well, yeah, and it's in the pull request that has a link to the issue that it fixes, and I think it's issue 643. I think.
Sir, I tried using different ways. Even request I created, I thought that it would be an issue because the other person who was initially working on it was using who am I to first see which user it who am I instead of the command. So I initialized the variable in the hope that when it will work with the curl command, it will solve the issue. But when I did that same thing, and the problem is the script is running fine when you are just trying to run it with sudo bash and the file if you already have a file. But when you are trying it with curl, it is popping up issues which are like not being interactive. That's the main issue. Like if I show you my screen now, which are like now it's run because the internet was slow then. So if not even the passwords, the screen is also taking the script is also not taking inputs here where it's supposed to take, like that replace license. It's like when the archiving of meshry.zip is going on, either of y, n, a, n, or r, any such input the bash script should take. But I am just not getting the reason why the script is not taking the input. And I tried looking for such issues and a possible solution, but I'm unable to get a possible solution for this issue. Recently, I made a change as well, but again, it's not working because this specific issue I'm not able to understand.
Totally. Hey, Ant, do you happen to have a running Linux system or access to a system?
Not right now. I'm on Mac too.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
Getting a Linux system is not a problem.
Nice. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Spin up a VM and do something with it.
And then Nipur, I think Ant was inviting some collaboration, like to the extent that you have. It's not a very long script, actually, Ant, but Nipur, to the extent that you have kind of code changes in flight, if you were to put those into a branch or share those with Ant, that might facilitate your guys's. If you've already tried a few things too in Nipur and you're saying, and you're finding that those don't work, I'll let the two of you guys.
Go ahead and just send it to me on Slack.
Oh. Ooh, okay. All right, sure. Yeah, and I'll let you. Very good. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, all right.
Who's next? What else do we have? I know we've merged any number of things. Nikhil, you're not on the call, are you? I know you're facing an issue you were trying to work through. He was on the call. I think he jumped off. Okay. Ivana, just to look forward to Friday, it'd be fantastic if we could do if we're in a place to demo, or if we might be able to demo your recent addition to NSM. That would be great. People would like to see it.
You mean this Friday?
Yeah, unless you've got a conflict.
Yeah, I cannot estimate yet because I didn't look at the fixes. But I may try. I can write to you Slack once I check, and maybe next week.
Nice. Okay, sure. Very good. Actually, I think I think it's the case that you might find that it's the case that the code that you've written that has been merged, I think it's functional. I think it's operational. But I think we raised a couple of issues about trying to leverage Helm going forth so that some of the code isn't fragile. So
yeah, I'd like to make some end-to-end testing and check what's wrong. And if we are preparing something like that for the NSM con, we will need to have fully running solution.
Yeah, you would not want to be standing in front of people demoing something that doesn't work. Yeah.
I'll pretend.
You too. You're a master of that, actually. That's great. Nice. Okay. Mayank, I know I think you've got at least one open PR. You've been chewing through some enhancements on Meshry CTL. Maybe.
Hi Lee, hi community. Thanks for inviting me. Okay, so I had a couple of ideas for Meshry. Am I audible?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thanks. So I had a couple of ideas for Meshry Cuttle. I'd just like to show it. Yeah. Just let me. Okay. Okay. All right. Um, I went through the docs for installing Meshery on various platforms, and I realized that each of them has a different method of installation. So I came up with this idea, you know, let Meshery Kernel handle everything. For example, if you want to install locally using Docker Compose, and you just pass the Docker flag, and similarly for Kubernetes. And something that I learned from Linkerd is that it's good to have replicas of your components. That is for high availability. But this means we would have to deal with node affinity as well. So I haven't really looked into it much. But yeah, that was basically my idea. It would enhance user experience to a good amount. That's pretty much it. Haven't really worked on it. Still brainstorming. Went through the code. So that's about it for Meshery Kernel. And I kind of needed some help on this part as well. Um, Let me see. Yes, right over here. So I've left this incomplete for now. I've written the code for this, but I'm kind of stuck because so the code does generate the completion script for various platforms. I mean, various shells, for example, Z shell or Bash. But the thing is, there's an issue with how we source them or install them. That doesn't work for some reason. I even went through the documentation, but up to no good. So I'm pretty much stuck over here. I needed some help with this as well.
Yeah. Mayank, you don't happen to have the link to that issue number, do you?
Sure, I'll just.
So there's kind of just to recap while Mayank brings that up is that he's been working on two different enhancements to Meshery CTL. He's worked on a number of them, but these most recent two, one of them is a Meshery CTL completion. So if you're not familiar with this, it's really convenient when you're trying to run something like Docker as a command line or kubectl as a command line, that you can type kubectl and press and start to type something and press tab, and it'll just auto complete for you. If you've run a completion script, and so Mayank has been working on building into Meshery CTL this bash completion script. And so I think I don't know if it's in the I don't know that we've released this just yet, because I don't think we've merged the PR. But let's bring it up. So it's Meshery CTL completion. And Mayank, I don't. If you have it, feel free to share or bring it up. I'm just hunting for it right now.
I've shared the link on the chat for the PR that I've made. Wait,
okay.
was that the correct one?
Oh, okay, very good.
Oops. Yes, that one.
Okay, great. I'm just sharing it here. So for most of you, I think you're familiar with the fact that in Meshery CTL we're using Cobra as a Go framework for interactive command line interfaces. It's just really popular. One of the functions of that library or of that scaffolding is to facilitate a completion command. So in this case, what Mayank is bringing forward is Meshery CTL completion, and the user types in the name of their shell, either bash or I think Z shell. Now, when we run this, refresh my memory, Mayank, I think you'll get outputted on the screen a fair number of bash script autocomplete?
Yes, right. So the shell script for the bash that you mentioned will be generated, and what happens after that is that you have to source it in some way. Yeah, so you just have to source it, and it's supposed to work, which is what the documentation says. But this doesn't really seem to work. So to confirm my understanding, what I did was I tried to learn how Linkerd is using it, and it's pretty much the same, but it doesn't seem to work there as well. So I've opened an issue there as well. So I'm kind of stuck. It seems like kubectl is the only place where completion seems to be working, but they seem to have a custom script for it, and they are not just using the Cobra generation methods.
They are not just using the Cobra generation methods.
Right. Yes, I had a look at their code as well. It's completely different from what I have implemented or what Linkerd is doing.
Uh,
So I'm pretty much stuck because reading through a lot of shell script is a little difficult. So I haven't really given it a lot of effort yet.
yeah.
If anyone has an alternative or some other suggestion, then I'll work and figure it out somehow. But yeah, as of now, I'm stuck.
Makes a lot of sense. I think maybe the only, and I agree with your approach about trying to help Linkerd move forward, trying to moving MeshRCTL forward. That it might be the case that have you gotten a chance to browse around in Cobra's repo for any? It might be the case you would want to open an issue there because it seems like uh,
No, I actually there's a couple of issues open there as well. With the same problem. This is the same problem they're addressing, but there's a lot of confusion around that. So I haven't really been able to extract any useful information to apply over here.
uh,
So or I don't know. I haven't really. I have tried my best. Maybe there is something more I need to look for.
sure.
So yeah.
Okay, yeah, it makes. So it sounds like yeah, if there are bash completions should know do not properly escape help text, behave uniformly. Hmm. Yeah, it might be the case. And some of these are relatively fresh as well. These issues. So it might be the case that yeah, the framework itself isn't. Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Um, the second thing, so there's one other thing to talk about that Mayank is working on, and he's actively soliciting input on. Actually, I think it would be much benefited from the input of those on the call, and that's the notion that of some of the functionality that Meshry has. Some of that is only you can only interact with that functionality or invoke it from the UI, and that's fantastic. You can invoke it from the UI, but we also need to expose that functionality in the CLI, in MeshReCTL. The first, there are two things that we need to expose. The one that Mayank is considering, and he's considering the structure of the commands, is the notion that you might want to install Meshry on Docker locally, which is what MeshReCTL start does today, or you might want to install Meshry in a Kubernetes cluster, which is what MeshReCTL does not facilitate today. And so he's looking at bringing in the notion of like platform support so that you can choose your target platform and use MeshReCTL to deploy Meshry to Docker, to Kubernetes, or maybe deploy it to Kubernetes, but in an HA way or in a way in which it's a deployment and it will scale. And as he's thinking through that, the part of the question is, well, what should that command syntax be? And so I'm going to bring up, there's a design doc that, and an issue that I think does the brainstorming. Since all of you use command line things, it would be helpful if you give it some consideration and think about what you feel like would be the most natural set of commands, the most natural CLI syntax to use. So this doc, I'll put it into the meeting minutes here. It's available in the community drive. If you can think about it, as we go to provide the ability to invoke performance tests from the command line, I think the proposal is that it would be meshrectl test, and then there would be a number, so you would invoke a test, and there would be a number of flags that would define how you want that test to run. And that really is representative of the command line representation of the UI that people interact with to perform the tests, or to simply have that described in a file. Now, of what Mayank is talking about is, and so this is ready to be built. And I don't know if Anand, or I forget if someone else was thinking of taking it on. It might. But so Mayank, the notes that we have in the issue, actually, we should probably move those into this doc so that we can iterate a bit on those. And maybe have a call for action in the community meeting as well, to have people express some opinions.
Right. So I did add a small note in the end of the doc, mentioning the different command options that should be available for start. I hope that's sufficient, but I'm still not sure. I think we should brainstorm more about this. But my idea was for as of now the Docker part is relatively simple. But how we would handle the Kubernetes part is that we need to pick up the kubeconfig file from the local host, which is located on the root directory. And we need to pick that up. We need to use the Kubernetes client code. I've looked into the code for that as well. It turns out that there is some functionality for that. You can just pick up the kubeconfig and directly get your runtime to connect to your local Kubernetes cluster, which is represented via the kubeconfig file. So yeah, so now there's a direct connection between Meshry-Kernel and your Kubernetes cluster. So after that, all we have to do is figure out a way to just spin up these deployments and pods into your cluster.
Nice. That makes sense to me. That which is great. It makes sense to me. Hopefully the functionality included inside of the Kubernetes API Go client. Does it, as it picks up the kubeconfig file and reads through it, does it also make it convenient? We also would need to expose to the user what cluster and potentially what namespace that they might want to deploy Meshry in. If they don't specify a namespace, we would probably just say, create a new namespace, call it Meshry, put it in there, or one called management and put it in there.
Maybe so to handle that issue, what we could do is so the configuration files for Meshry, we could include the namespace in that itself. Like we could have a separate config file to describe the namespace, and to make this configurable, we could probably use Helm for this.
Oh, nice. So yeah. So use Helm internal to Meshry-CTL.
Yeah, Helm seems like a good option to manage your configuration files after all. So, and also if you're going to be having the HA thing, then it's not necessary that that the number of replicas I want to have might be the same throughout. Like some people might want 3 replicas, some might want 5, 6, and so on. So even that needs to be configurable. So maybe Helm could do a good job over here in that case.
That's true. Yeah, I wonder if that would, or customize, if we're looking to manipulate manifests, and if we're looking for, if Meshry-CTL leverages Helm to perform the Kubernetes install, that can make a ton of sense. That you would also then use Helm to customize the values of that install. That makes sense.
Or to make things simpler, what we could do is we could get the mesh-recurtal start. For example, let's say the command goes something like mesh-recurtal start dash dash k or k. So what we could do is this command could simply generate the configuration files for me, and I could pipe that output to kubectl apply. So that would also be relatively simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yep. Sometimes choice is good because sometimes it's the case that people are looking for that simple method, or they want to stay away from Helm, or there's a mandate that they use Helm, and so on a related. So Mayank, I know as we end the top of the hour, a couple things. You may or may not have seen this comment about the notion that there's a number of forthcoming capabilities or plans for capabilities within Meshry CTL, and so to the extent that there's this part of my suggestion is maybe that we would use something like a -p for platform, or something. Maybe we would change the syntax away from start or run or something, because what we'll end up wanting to do is there are other things in the UI that Meshry can do, like deploying a service mesh, that you're only able to do through the UI right now. But at some point, we'd want for that ability to be performed through Meshry CTL as well. So we expect people will be driving Meshry through their pipeline, their CD pipelines, in addition to using it interactively. And so if we think about, there's kind of two different deployments, if you will, or a couple of different deployments. One deployment of Meshry itself, another deployment of a service mesh. Anyway, I'll try to brainstorm more in the design doc with you and whoever else jumps in. I think there's one other item in there I was gonna suggest, and now I forget. But this is an exciting thing for me, Mayank. This is it's one of those things that the Google team has and the Buoyant folks have committed to leveraging Meshry in their release pipelines for those projects, for Istio, for Linkerd, and so have the HashiCorp folks. But the lack of the ability to, the fact that you have to do some of that through UI prevents them from using it in their build process. So just your focus here is great. This is going to be really helpful. All right, we're just a minute over. Anybody have anything else we want to chew through today? Nice. Okay. Good. All right. Well, I expect people to be more chatty on Friday's community call. I'm sure you will be. So good. We'll want to end on time, let people make it to their next meeting if they've got one. Mayank, this is great. Thanks for sharing. Ivana, good to hear from you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Nidin and Anukul, thanks for joining today, guys. It's great to see you for the first time. So,
Thanks.
yeah.
Bye to all.
Okay. Bye, guys. Bye, all.
Cheers.
Bye.